What's up, people? Welcome back to the channel. We are back with a training day, and I think the key to me uploading more regularly onto YouTube is gonna actually just be committing to recording a certain amount of times per week. So I'm gonna be committing to recording 2 times per week at least. Today we are on our way to Max Beach Gym, and we're gonna be recording a pull session where I'm gonna be training with a new friend of mine. His name is Eddie. He is Brazilian, but he has been living in Ireland for a long time, and now he lives here. We're about into the gym. We may as well go on a man date together. And what do gym bros do for man dates? Well, we train together. So yeah, it's gonna be good. I was in Max Beach last week for like what was essentially just like a beach club day. I had a photo shoot with all of our clients. I tagged along, so myself and about 25 girls, and then there's obviously Emma's 2 photographers, Dom and Don, and we were just chilling out for the day. And like I have to say, I'll show you when we get there, but the place is fucking sick. Like, they have a beach club, right, tunes going all day, and then they have a gym right beside it, and then they have like obviously something that I think is amazing, which is a lovely Asian restaurant as well baked inside it. So yeah, look, if we're gonna move at some point, I wouldn't mind moving up towards this area, because if there's an Asian restaurant, a gym and a beach club all in the same area, I mean, that is I'm all over that. So while we're in the car and we have a bit of time to burn, because it is I'm about 20 minutes away from the gym, said we'd have a little bit of a chin wag, and we might make these car talks a little bit of a thing, because I now have a setup to record in the car. One thing that I've been speaking with clients about this week has been in relation to gaining, right? So obviously right now it's pretty relevant to me. I'm in a gaining phase, and one thing that's naturally important for gaining weight, right, while I do think training is going to be like the most important thing to focus on, like in terms like that's like the day-to-day thing that we can absolutely nail and ensure that we're delivering the stimulus for muscle growth, it does need to be supported with nutrition, right? Like naturally, right? So protein intake is one thing, but then just the calorie surplus is another, right? And calorie surplus, ultimately at the end of the day, that's going to be the thing that's going to be driving your body weight up. And when we're in a gaining phase, we don't really need our calories to be overly high. Like, we don't need them to be like, you know, fucking 1,000 calorie surplus. Most of the time we're going to be fine if we have like a 200 to 300 calorie surplus. Now, why this is important is because 200-300 calories over your maintenance, it's ensuring that we're definitely over a maintenance level of intake, right? So naturally enough, our calorie needs are pretty dynamic, and they may change day to day, and we're kind of giving ourselves a 200-300 calorie surplus just to ensure that we are accounting for this day-to-day variability. Some days, if my calorie intake or my weight maintenance is 3,000, some days it might be 3,100, some days it might be 3,200, some days it might be 2,900, some days it might be 2,800, right? So there's going to be a range of where your weight maintenance figures are. Now, if, say for example, we are having a 200-300 calorie surplus, just to make sure that we are in a surplus on a day-to-day basis, that surplus can vary, like depending what your energy expenditure is that day, right? So an important thing to consider, right, that the surplus, the projected surplus, or the aim surplus, the targeted surplus, whatever, that is going to be a bigger surplus on some days and a lower surplus on others. But it is still necessary for you to be hitting that target number on a day-to-day basis, and it's for that exact reason, right? So this week with a client, they were kind of wondering why, like, you know, my body weight hasn't really been kind of going up, but I have been hitting my macros. Had a look through the nutrition logs, and they've been really good for hitting their protein intake, class, really consistent with training and training hard, awesome. But when you actually looked at their calories were not hitting the mark, right? Their calories were under what they were meant to be hitting. They were getting close, but they weren't quite there. Now, with this particular person, we know where their maintenance sits, right? Their maintenance is sitting at the exact same spot on a day-to-day basis, or on a consistent basis, and we know that because we've had periods of weight maintenance at these specific calories. And when the person hasn't been hitting the target calories, right, naturally the surplus calories, their weight isn't going to move up. It's important to understand that, like, even if you're hitting your target calories on 3 days of the week, 4 days of the week, because the surplus in general, like a 200 calorie surplus, is not that great, it doesn't take many days of you not hitting that number or going below that number or even below maintenance for you to essentially negate the size of the surplus. If you think about this in practical sense, right? So if you think about, at the end of the week, you should have a 1400 calorie surplus made up, okay? So that's 200 calorie surplus per day. If on 4 of those days you hit your 200 calorie surplus, right? Now you have an 800 calorie surplus. 3 of those days you just hit maintenance. Okay, so that means now your projected maintenance for the end of the week is half of what it should have been. Okay, so that's gonna cause or result in a slower rate of gain by about half of what you're expecting. Now let's assume that on those 3 days you're not hitting maintenance. Maybe you're actually eating a little bit less, right? Maybe you're not as planned, or you forget to have a last meal or something like that. And now on some of those days, say for example, one of the days you're 100 calories below, another day you're 300 calories below, another day you're at maintenance, okay? So now you're down an extra 400 calories. So now at the end of the week, you've had 4 days of a surplus, that's your 800 calorie surplus. You've had 1 day which you've had 100 calories of your maintenance. Now that's bringing you down to a 700 calorie surplus, and you have 1 day with 300, under 300, and now you're at a 400 calorie surplus. So at the end of the week, when you've been like, oh, I've been pretty good, I've been hitting my calories, been hitting my macros, but it's only been 4 of the days and the other days haven't, you've essentially kind of decimated the amount of the surplus that you should have been in. There's a big difference between having a 400 calorie surplus at the end of the week and having a 1400 calorie surplus at the end of the week. And this is why thinking of our metrics or the targets in a hierarchical fashion is so important when it does come to getting bigger and getting stronger, right? Number one things when it does come to like your training, okay? Getting in the gym, being there consistently, following the program. Doesn't have to be perfect exercise selection, doesn't have to be perfect frequency. You just need to be going at a consistent amount of times per week, and ideally hitting a similar amount of volume with a similar amount of intensity week after week, and of course abiding to the principle of progressive overload. When it comes to your nutrition, adherence is number one, of course, right? Adherence is number one, but adherence to what? Adherence to calories first and foremost. If you have goals that relate to body mass changes, or body mass changes, weight loss, weight gain, and then if you're really concerned about obviously body composition, adding protein on top of that. Protein, calories, the two most important metrics. Even if you're going through a fat loss phase, if you just focus on those two things, they be the main things to focus on. Again, like, the same context applies in the likes of a fat loss phase, right? If you're going through a fat loss phase, you have some of your days where you're in deficit, and some days where you're not, or some days where you're in maintenance, or some days you went over your calories. It doesn't matter if you've had some days that are good, because at the end of the week, you're going to notice that your total calorie intake, or that your total rate of change or total rate loss is a lot slower, and that results in a longer fat loss journey. In the context of somebody looking to gain weight, it results in even slower of a process, which again is already a slow process to begin with. And when things are incredibly slow, that's when people are going to be a lot more they're going to be slack on their targets a lot more. They're going to slack on their goals more, because if something that they feel like as if they're giving a good effort to is not resulting in some type of change that's beneficial, then they are unlikely to continue with that behavior, because they're not getting the reward. Because at the end of the day, there is some type of external reward that people do this for. I think it's really important at the start that you kind of see these things as just tasks that you need to do, right? Like, your training has to be done, calories, they have to be hit, protein, they have to be hit, right? Like, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have really good systems and good habits built up around that, so I rarely ever have a day where I'm like left with loads of calories and loads of protein at the end of the day, because again, I've been doing this for so damn long, it just doesn't happen. But at the start, you will have those days, and it's important, in my opinion, that in those contexts, you ensure you don't go to bed without doing them, okay? You build a habit, because like the more often you are purposeful and deliberately practice doing these things, the more you're going to start to plan it into your day better. But the more it's going to become a habit. If right now the habit is not hitting your calorie target, not hitting your protein target, you need to do something different if that's going to change. And sometimes that's going to be at a weird, like fucking 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, you have some weird creation to hit your calories. I've been there, I've done that, and I've learned from my mistakes that that is not the best approach to do it, okay? But it's through making that mistake that I learned that wasn't the best approach to do it, okay? And no matter how much I pontificate here on the YouTube channel, some of you are still going to make that mistake, and you know what? That's okay. But the main thing is that you learn from it, and you take those learnings and you actually, you know, change, right? Because if you don't, you're always going to be spinning your wheels and always at this point of making a little bit of progress here every fucking 2 years, right? Which is, you know, as much as I like to think that we've got a lot of time here to make a ton of gains, a ton of progress, ultimately time is finite. You know, I'm not getting any younger, you're not getting any younger, so maybe you just need to pull the figure out and you know, get to work and do some of the things that are going to be a little uncomfortable right now. Again, it's not meant to be a comfortable process, but it can be an easier one. Alright, I'm almost at the gym. I will chat to you when we're there.
Five equipment for cardio, 2 boxing bags at the back, dumbbells, kettlebells, and 1 kicker.
30 stacked, isn't it? Oh, mate.
Drive. 6. Drive.
Nice.
One more.
Let's go. Go all the way down, 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 down. Control. Come on.
Yes.
Come on. Keep going. Come on. You need a heavier weight. Alright, YouTube. Hopefully this is working. YouTube, this is Eddie. Eddie,
Hi guys.
Introduce yourself.
No, my name is Eddie. I am the 2023 Men's Physique IFBB champion in Ireland. And today we're here in Spain, me and Shane, just throwing a back session together. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah, we're doing our best. So Eddie's following my training session today. And we were just talking about how like over our training programs, I guess they're going to set up slightly differently, right? So as you've seen from a lot of the way I've been training across the last few months and last few years, specifically for my bodybuilding work, it's been very like low volume, high intensity, so like 1 to 2 sets per exercise and pushing out into failure. And Eddie was saying how that contrasts with his, where he's maybe doing like 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 sets for an exercise during the session, right? And like neither approach are like right and neither approach is wrong. A lot of it comes down to to personal preference and yeah, like how you kind of like to train. So Eddie was saying to me, for example, how, you know, when I did my first set of flat pull downs and did a completely failure, you know, and he was like, "You're gonna do that on your first exercise?" I was like, "Well, yeah, there's only 2 sets to do, so I'm not really too concerned about the first set and knocking the second set performance, especially since they're going to be both like different rep schemes, so 6 to 10, then 10 to 12.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're doing the same rep scheme and you're doing 4 to 5 sets for an exercise, you probably don't want to push the first set all the way to failure, because your performance by the time you get to your last few sets are going to be so diminished, or the load on the barrel has to reduce by so much, you won't get as much out from it. And this is where, like, when it does come to doing like higher volume to lower volume, higher intensity, it's really just like the difference in intensity per set. So more moderate volume, higher volumes, whatever you want to call them, they're going to still allow you to grow, because per set you're still getting a number of like effective reps for hypertrophy, and it's just that they are doing that across more sets, whereas somebody doing 2 sets of 1 set, the majority of their reps or their last few reps, because they're only doing so many anyway, to complete failure, they're going to get more quote unquote effective reps. So
by the way, this is our first session together, so I didn't know what to expect. Like, I know I can see Shane training on Instagram, YouTube and all of that, but then it's like when you're training together, like if you never trained with someone else before, you always have that surprise effect, like, okay, so are we following my schedule, your schedule, or what we're doing here? And I was like, oh man, I wouldn't do that myself. Like, if I was on my own following my thing, I wouldn't do that. But anyway,
yeah.
But great.
Again, it comes down to preferences, and I think like who you follow, because a lot of people I would be following across the last few years, that's the kind of training style that they kind of do, and I like that. I personally I don't have, I'm doing powerlifting, so powerlifting is kind of like that, right? Where you're doing like maybe 4 to 5 sets on exercise, and that's fine for powerlifting. For me, for bodybuilding, I'm like, I just want to do 2 really hard sets and move on. Otherwise, I just get a little bit bored, to be honest.
No, for me, I have to have the 4 sets. Like, no matter what, I have 4 exercise, and then I keep that. You know, the range between, it depends. So normally working between 10 and 12 reps, but then sometimes I feel, okay, the energy is a bit down, or I'm gonna put a bit heavier, and then I go between 6 and 8, but always respecting that, you know, 4 exercises, 5 exercises maximum, and and then it works. As he says, it works. It works both ways.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about training for hypertrophy. Many different things work, and again, it's just like probably the most important thing is that you're, as I said in the car when I was talking, consistency in showing up to the gym, hitting your calories, hitting your protein intake, do that for years, and it's hard not to get massive. Anyway,
Exactly.
Next exercise. Come on. Nice.
Whoa. Fucking hell.
Come on. Almost there.
One more.
Let's go. Drive all the way back, all the way back, all the way back. Shoulder yourself. Control, 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 control. Oh, come on. Fucking hell. Good.
Please. Drive. Yes.
All right, so we're doing a rest pause set to finish off. So essentially rest pause, rep range between 8 to 15, rep out to failure. Once you have failure, 5 deep breaths, rep out another cluster to failure, 5 deep breaths, go again. Sometimes you'll have a rep cap, so you might work up to 20 as a kind of rep target. However, in terms of progressing them, if you're using rep range, say for example, doing 8 to 15. Once you hit 15 on your activation set or your first set, fine, we can increase the load. But a really good way to get in a lot of high intensity work in a very short period of time. Essentially getting in 3 straight sets worth of work within 1 in less than 5 minutes. Come on, let's keep going. You got a sore biceps around, man. I like the muscles there. It's Saturday, didn't get to wrap up the video yesterday because I had a very busy evening, got stuck in traffic, had a call with a new client, and then had to bring the doggy in a walk and have dinner, all that kind of stuff. Just didn't have time to wrap up the video. But you may remember in the previous video I mentioned that there's a special delivery coming and something I really wanted to show you and share with you. Well, that thing is here, and look what we got. Boom. So what we got here is a new set of DJ decks. These are my first set of decks in like 7 years. So we got the Denon SC Live 4. Functionality on it is so cool. So this is able to connect up to Apple Music. Just come here to source. So you see there, I'm going to connect to pretty much any streaming platform other than Spotify. So we've got Apple Music, Amazon Music, SoundCloud. Obviously if I have USBs, I can plug them in there too. But Apple Music, I can essentially come over to all my playlists and I can access pretty much any song here. Say for example, I'll just pick one song here. I pick this one, load it onto the deck, and now that song will download from the internet. So cache the whole song. I'll load it over to the decks, and one awesome thing about these ones as well is they have built-in speakers. So how cool is that? So yeah, I have to say I'm absolutely thrilled with getting these because I've put off buying them for so long. Like this is my this is my other hobby aside from training is is DJing, but I actually sold my last set of decks so I could afford to go to a music festival. Pretty much when myself and Emma actually started going out, so that's how long it's been since I've really DJ'd. So my hobby now is going to be trying to learn how to do this again, because I do have a little bit to work on in regards to like making transitions nice and smooth, but it's going to be something else to do other than feel guilty for not making content or being productive. You can walk ahead in front of the camera.
Sorry, you're talking. I don't want to be awkward.
You're being more awkward than standing there. So yeah, I guess like I've felt like the last like while I've renewed the hobby because, you know, my job just revolves around the gym. I'm always looking at people training, writing training programs, making content around training, doing it myself. And then on my time off, I don't really have anything that I really enjoy doing. It just ends up me like scrolling on my phone, feeling guilty that I maybe should be using that time to do something productive. So this is going to allow me to have a little bit of escapism, and I think it's something that's like really, really important as, you know, we all get older, is to have something that offers a form of escapism versus just being something that's always like focused on like progression in career or life. Something just do for fun. Being a child again, right? Engaging in play. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spin these for a while, annoy Emma, and educate Samson on some good music. And we'll catch you in the next one.